Hi guys, follow me on Instagram to never ever miss any of my crazy updates. Hi guys and welcome to another vlog. I'm driving this. This is the 2020 Hyundai Verna facelift, but this is the turbo variant of the vehicle. And straight away we are going to be opening the engine bay because it's got a 1 liter turbo GDI motor right there. Engine bay is very clean and there's insulation, of course. Yeah, it's actually not very heavy, not very light either. Now, of course, I've done the review of the Verna multitude of times, so we're going to just focus on the changes to the turbo variant. First and foremost, instead of the chrome treatment on the grille, it gets this black finish. It also gets front parking sensors and looks quite sporty, the bumper as well. I mean, the cuts and creases, everything looks nice. In fact, there's this fake air dam sort of a finish. Fog lamps are not LEDs, like I told you, front parking sensors are there on this car. LED lights, not complete LEDs because the indicator is actually a bulb. The lights look really very nice. The lights merge with the grille and they have actually revised the design of the car extensively for a facelift. Well, that's a lot of things to we have done on this vehicle, and they've tried to differentiate it with the turbo variant, which actually looks quite nice. From the side, yes, it looks more or less similar to the older Verna. Get a sloping roofline. The alloy wheel design actually looks quite nice. Gets this black finish. Well, the alloy wheels are common between both the turbo and the non-turbo variant. Well, actually the diesel is also a turbocharged engine. 195, 55, 16 is the size of the tires. Little low profile, yes. You get this gloss black finishing on the outside rear view mirrors, but the roof is not finished black. That's kind of weird. Chrome door handles, and the turbo variant also gets rear disc brakes, which is actually nice. However, what's not so nice is this treatment. It kind of feels overdone at the rear. I mean, yeah, it's not needed. Could do without it, but it's still there. Any which ways, you see, it gets dual exhaust tips, and these exhausts are not fake. They are very much functional. Yeah, 1x2 exhaust right there. It gets a rear diffuser too. Well, not functional, but yes, that is the rear diffuser, again finished in gloss black. The rear also looks very similar to the older one, but the lights have been reprofiled. Says turbo here in red, and on a red color that turbo is not really very visible. Lights actually look quite nice. Well done on that front. And if you come behind and just stand, the boot automatically opens, so it's got hands-free boot release too. The car has to be turned off for that, but it's turned on right now. It actually works quite slick. They have refined the system over time. Meanwhile, the boot is decent enough. The spare wheel not only isn't an alloy, it's actually a smaller size tire, 185, 65, 15. Now the Verna is an absolute value for money package because it comes with a ton of features. However, where it lags is rear seat space because it doesn't have much space on offer. But yes, the seats are actually quite comfortable because of the recline angle being nice. No center headrest. Well, that's a good thing because the people cannot sit here comfortably. Isofix child seat mounts, center armrest with twin cup holders. Floor is almost flat, and that's not all. You get center AC vents, and you also get a charging socket. Yeah, a proper charging socket, not a 12-volt charging socket, but a proper USB charging socket. Not the most comfortable if you're tall. That is, headroom isn't that great because of the sloping roofline, and for tall passengers, well, it'll be a slight issue. Under-thigh support isn't the best. Dashboard gets the all-black treatment. Yes, the Verna Turbo actually gets the all-black treatment on the inside for the sporty appeal, but that also has a bit of an issue, which I will come to in a bit. You see, space cannot match the Honda City. Absolutely not. The City just has crazy amount of space on offer. And you see that? Well, shark fin antenna is also finished in gloss black. The City also has the same wheelbase of the Verna. Yeah, both of them have the same wheelbase, but Honda's man maximum, machine minimum philosophy really lends it a lot of space on the inside. Actually, the seats look quite comfortable. They are very comfortable. At the front seat you'll never have a problem with. Get this red stitching here. You also get these red inserts on the AC vents and a gloss black surround. But the cabin gets the all black treatment, which actually makes you, see that hard plastic is there because they're shiny and bright. And there is, of course, a lot of hard plastics inside this car. So yeah, Hyundai has done cost cutting in that sense. The dashboard design actually looks very similar to the older Verna, of course. However, you get a bigger 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system, which is not flushed inside the center console. It's outside because obviously it's bigger in terms of size. It cannot fit. 8-inch is the size. It's very legible. It's very slick, very smooth to use. Oh my god, super smooth. There's something known as a driver rear view monitor, which you will turn on when we're driving this car. Something known as driving info as well. It's telling you how you have been driving the car. Basically in terms of acceleration, deceleration, and also speed distribution. Well, driving has kind of become an exam right now because you're being scored on that as well. Meanwhile, I love the slickness of the system. I love the fact that it gets Apple CarPlay, Android Auto connectivity, a nice decent reverse parking camera with adaptive guidelines as well, and it also gets a slew of connected car features too, which by the way lets you turn on the vehicle remotely, see a lot of information including tire pressure too. But when I got into reverse, you see There's this parking sensor display which actually comes in the multi-information display too. That's also very nicely and neatly done. But the plastics are a bit too hard and shiny, and because of the black treatment, the cabin doesn't feel as big as the one on the dual tone treatment of the car, which is there on the other variants, non-turbo variant. I'm saying non-turbo, does not include diesel, of course. You see, glove box isn't that big enough, but there is a cooling function. There's no cooling function here. It's decent size as such. So you see, there's a lot of storage spaces, plenty of charging options as well. Yeah, there are multitude of charging options. There's also a wireless charger right there, and my favorite, ventilated front seats. This is a feature every car maker should be offering. Meanwhile, obviously, these are controls for the audio system. This is for the cruise control system. It also gets paddle shifters, and not the plasticky kind, but really nice quality paddle shifters, automatic headlights, and it also gets really nice wipers, because plenty of spray on offer. Wipers work brilliantly well on this car, and it gets an auto dimming inside rear view mirror too. There's a sunglass holder. Like I told you, practicality wise, yes, it's very practical at the front. Now here's a bit of an issue. There's no light, that's fine, but you see the design of this mirror, well, it's open, there's nothing to close. On the other side, there is a one which opens and closes. Why is there no symmetry here? Although there's a mirror, which is actually a good thing, because the Creta does not get a mirror right there. Now, of course, this is a BMW inspired instrument cluster. Now, the instrument cluster looks a bit like the Verna, which is digital, and you really cannot read the analog part in the digital for the speedometer and the tachometer, but there are digital readouts for the speedometer and tachometer as well. Looks really nice, will remind you of many BMW cars of late. However, what I really like is voice commands. Let's press this.
How can I help you?
Navigate me to McDonald's.
Navigating to McDonald's. Start route guidance.
Well,
500 meters, turn right.
Well, that is extremely slick and nice. I love it. It's very smoothly done. Like I was telling you, connected car tech, so you have got these buttons here as well. And with connected car tech, you can geofence the car. I mean, there are a multitude of options. I like how Hyundai is being giving a lot of features, and this sportiness with the red surround around the engine start stop button is also really well done. Yeah, you see that red treatment, you get the piano black finishing in the center console, and of course the gear lever also gets this red stitching, the steering also gets this red stitching. So yeah, all Hyundai cars with a turbocharged engine, they're getting this red treatment for that sporty appeal. But is it sporty enough? Well, since I've already done a detailed review of the Hyundai Verna, and this is the same, so I'm not going to go into the details of the walk around in the interior bit. Just click here to see that. Let's get driving right away. Alright, we are all set to go, which means getting into drive mode, turning off the traction control, turning on the driver rear view monitor, left foot on the brake, right foot on the accelerator, revving the motor. It only revs till around 1500 RPM. Well, that's not much, and off we go. I forgot to say that actually. So you can see the performance isn't that exciting, because right from get-go, it doesn't have that enthusiasm. It doesn't have launch control. Of course, you don't expect launch control at this price point. But this dual clutch gearbox actually dulls things. It does not let you launch aggressively, and you can't build the revs. So traction control is also of not much use here, because you're not going to spin the wheels, because at 1500 RPM, what wheel spin are you going to do? So yes, I had a lot of expectations from a car with a turbocharged petrol engine and a dual clutch gearbox. Unfortunately though, those expectations aren't met right away, because yeah, that grunt is missing. Obviously, we'll get into sport mode now, which is basically, there are three modes for the gearbox. One is regular drive mode. Yeah, then if you pull the lever towards yourself, you get into Tiptronic function in all Hyundai cars and Kia cars. You have to pull the gear lever towards yourself. In other cars, it's actually pull it away, rather push it away from yourself. And right now it's in sport mode. Now if I touch any of the paddles, well, it changes into manual mode, but doesn't give you complete manual control of things, because after a point, rather at red line, it obviously upshifts. It reaches 100 kilometers per hour in third gear, takes around 12 seconds to reach there, which actually makes it slower. Yeah, that's right. It actually makes it slower than the 1.5 liter engine, which is a non-turbo engine, but that's a manual. You see, it redlines around 6,200, 6,300 RPM. The suspension is on the softer side, and that softness can be felt more so at high speed, because there's some amount of vertical movement which also happens. So overall performance, yeah, it's not that great when you talk about outright grunt. However, the mid-range is really very strong here, and the motor is quite refined for a 3-cylinder engine. You can't hear any sort of vibrations lower down, but a little bit of the 3-cylinderness can be felt higher around the rev range, maybe probably mostly actually around the red line, where you can feel a little bit of vibes creeping inside the cabin as well. Now we're launching in sport mode. 1600 RPM. Honestly, traction control is of no use here because the wheels don't spin at all. However, the mid-range is really very nice and strong. I mean, that enthusiasm which I was expecting, unfortunately, is not in here. AC is off or what? You can feel some air from somewhere. I don't know from where it's coming. Alright, so that enthusiasm which I was expecting is not there, unfortunately. Yeah, the mid-range is really very nice. It's punchy. It doesn't really give you a kick in the pants feel because for the most part, the motor is very, very linear. But this is the 1 liter turbocharged petrol engine which produces 120 PS of power at 6000 RPM. Meanwhile, the torque output happens to be 172 Newton meters, which has a very wide band, right from 1500 RPM all the way to 4000 RPM. Yes, that's a very wide torque band. That's the reason why the mid-range is absolutely phenomenal. It feels really grunty in the mid-range, has great amount of punch, but there is lag lower down, and there are two types of lags. One is of course the turbo lag, because of which drivability isn't great, and the other is the dual clutch gearbox, which has been tuned not to push out all the punch lower down, to conserve the box, which is something which I've seen in other dual clutch auto boxes as well. Obviously, it's Volkswagen's box also has that initial lag, because of which I think it suffers at least half a second or probably more in get-go for a 0 to 100 km/h launch. That said, the German cars don't have it. They have launch control. Faisal, Volkswagen is German. I'm talking about German luxury cars don't have it. Why are we stuck here? What's happening? Steering is super light. It's so light. It's so easy to twirl this car. Not twirl the car, twirl the steering of this car. It's really very nice and easy to drive this vehicle, and with the dual clutch box it makes it even more convenient. Now of course this is an automatic, which means that you can easily crawl in traffic and stop go, you won't face an issue, but once you get going, that lag can be a bit of a bother. However, getting the car to downshift isn't an issue because it is actually quite aggressive with downshifts, and you know what, it's not as fast as a DSG box, this DCT. However, it is very smooth, it's very refined, and the motor also feels nice and refined, especially in the mid-range. It feels like a charm. It absolutely smoothens out everything beautifully well. Now, this is obviously a 3-cylinder engine. This engine has been put in so many cars. Probably Hyundai should have offered a 1.4 liter motor in the Verna, because obviously of its size, it's much bigger when compared to the Venue, Grand, i10, Neos, as well as the Aura. You see the ride is so nice because of the softness. The suspension is on the softer side, the chassis is on the stiffer side, and because of which I think the overall balance is pretty good. However, there is body roll around the corners. There's actually quite a lot of body roll around the corner, and the steering doesn't really inspire much either. Yes, it does weigh up at higher speeds. It doesn't freak you out. It doesn't freak you out at all. In fact, it does inspire confidence to maintain higher speeds. Although at higher speeds, because of the soft suspension, there's some amount of vertical movement which is happening. Especially if you go over expansion joints, you can feel the car taking a slight, what do I call this thing, wave sort of format. Yeah, that is at really higher speeds, because this car is actually capable of doing almost 180 km/h. So yes, top speed is also generous. But that said, I love the way the paddles have been done. Not the cheap ass plastics which most people give, but Hyundai has given metal paddles which feel nice to operate as well. And the fuel economy of this car is also decent. When you compare to the 1.5 liter petrol, obviously I'm going to compare everything to the 1.5 liter petrol, because that actually costs more than this one. Yeah, that's right. So obviously we don't have a manual transmission option. A manual would have been really great because you could have been able to launch this car properly. With the DCT, you can't launch it. Unfortunately, that launch is just not possible only, and that is a bit of an issue, and that robs away the initial acceleration and grunt from this vehicle. So braking performance, like I told you, is really very nice. It gets rear discs as well and chauffeur to stopping power. Grip is good under braking, but grip around the corners could have been slightly better. You see, the shifts are really very fast, and I like the fact that smoothness is there. It sounds sporty as well near the red line, but it redlines very fast. 6,100, 6,200 RPM is where it's redlining. That's pretty fast for a red line. Okay, it doesn't have the same soul of a TSI motor. Now this is obviously a 3-cylinder engine. The 1 liter TSI has also a 3-cylinder engine. So if we compare both of them, this engine obviously has more power, and it has more or less the same torque, but the TSI engine just feels so much more punchier, so much more eager, so much more enthusiastic. However, the funny part is that this is a 1 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine with direct injection, of course, and they have a 1.5 litre naturally aspirated petrol engine with 4 cylinders, an extra cylinder. This is almost as refined. However, this produces more power, it produces more torque, it's more fuel efficient as well. Yeah, that's the irony, it's more fuel efficient. The least efficient variant of the Verna lineup is the petrol manual, and the petrol automatic, which uses a CVT, is more efficient than the petrol manual. Yeah, that's right. And this one, a turbocharged petrol engine with more power and more torque, is even more efficient than the petrol manual, than the petrol automatic. Wow. Of course, the diesel is the most efficient of the lineup, whether you talk about the diesel manual, which is actually the most efficient, and the diesel automatic, which is a torque converter, which is slightly lesser efficient. Diesel has a torque converter automatic and a 6-speed manual. The turbo has a 7-speed DCT, there is no manual on offer, and the petrol has a 6-speed manual and a CVT. So it's like every gearbox option in the Verna, maybe an IMT will also be coming really soon. So you see, it is so easy to drive this car. It is absolutely convenient as well. Onto the gas. Mid-range will really excite you. The problem is this isn't as exciting a car as it looks like. Unfortunately, all these red accents and the red elements do not improve the performance of the car. Neither do they improve the handling. They don't reduce the body roll either. Just kidding. But you know, these red elements and those dual tip exhausts make you believe that you're driving a car which has a lot of grunt, which is going to be fun to drive. Unfortunately, it is not. And I know I'm going to say this, but yeah, I still enjoy driving the Honda VTEC more. The manual, of course, not the automatic. This car is way better than Honda's CVT unit for sure. And if Honda gets a dual clutch box in the automatic, that would be just amazing. Around the corner, you see, it maintains its line very well, but there is some amount of roll on offer, and of course, that is all because of the soft suspension of this car. It is on the softer side. Now, there are 11 variants of the Hyundai Verna on offer. 5 of them are for the petrol, 5 of them are for the diesel. And when I say petrol, I always mean naturally aspirated petrol. I do not mean turbo, because for turbo, I said for turbo is turbo. Turbo is different. Anyways, there's one variant for the turbo, and there's only one variant for the turbo, which is the top of the line, which we are driving right now. And this is not the most expensive petrol variant on offer, because the petrol automatic, which is a 1.5 litre unit, which is naturally aspirated with a CVT gearbox, is actually more expensive by 5,000 rupees. The price of this car is 16.42 lakh rupees on road Mumbai. And honestly, if I have to opt for a car in this segment for fun to drive nature, well, I would get the city manual. It just feels so better to drive because the steering has more feel, the body roll is well contained, and of course, it just is more engaging to drive. However, the Verna is still unbeatable when you talk about the diesel engine, because the diesel engine in the Verna is just fantastic, unbelievable refinement.
You should tell me ना, मैंने जैसे देखो मैंने बोला.
The Verna then is definitely a very nice, comfortable, good-looking, feature-loaded car, but is not a driver's delight, period. Okay, the suspension is soft, the steering doesn't have much feel or feedback as such, it does weigh up, it doesn't feel scary, and it's a car which will definitely please the non-enthusiast, although this particular variant is aimed at the enthusiast, I believe, but they should have offered a manual. As I see it, the Honda City VTEC is still unbeatable in spite of not having a turbocharger. It is still so much fun because it's not about how fast you go, it's not about how many clutches you have in your automatic. What matters most is the feel of driving, which somehow the Verna lacks, and that brings the confusion here, that the Verna is a great car, but who is it actually aimed at? Because it's not really a driver's delight, and it doesn't really have much space on offer at the rear either. So it's a car which appeals to the non-enthusiast, self-driven crowd, which will appreciate the quality, the features, the ease of driving, the refinement, the smoothness, the ride quality, and all these aspects. And in that sense, the Verna really shines. Now, you pay a premium of almost 1.5 lakh rupees for the automatic 1.5 litre petrol manual versus the 1.5 litre petrol automatic, and you pay almost a similar premium minus 5,000 rupees. You do the calculation for the turbo over the petrol manual, and I still feel that petrol manual is the best of the whole lineup because the CVT obviously has that rubber band effect, and the turbo lacks the enthusiasm from the gearbox and the low end punch. But still, it's a good looking car. It's a car which looks sporty and has a great mid-range, making it a vehicle definitely worth considering if you're looking for something which offers you the convenience without really having to spin the wheels and ruin the tires every given moment, because that's something which the city loves to do. It just loves to spin its wheels. Even with the traction control on, that's crazy. But Hyundai has done a great job in upping the appeal of the Verna. It feels so much more appealing. It really looks the part now, and with a ton of features as well, it's really convenient too. I love the fact that the ventilated seats really keep you cool. That's so good. This is a feature alone for which I would buy this car, because I really use that feature every given moment. So guys, this is my vlog of the Hyundai Verna Turbo. If you liked it, you know what you have to do. Give it the thumbs up. That's the like button, and also subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys in the next video real soon. Bye bye, take care. You see the bumps? Yeah, it takes the bumps easily in its stride, but get an expansion joint. I think there's one here, and a little bit up down. For the most part, it does a great job. Only thing is, if the expansion joint is a little bit longer, a little bit taller, a little bit not well made, which is usually the case, well, you can feel a little bit more inside as well. Let's see each gear what speed it does. Launches at 1600 RPM. Upshifts at around 39 km per hour in first gear. In second gear, it does it at 67 km per hour. In third gear, it goes all the way till 105 km per hour, doing a shift to fourth. Now there's 7 speeds, of course. So with the paddles, the funny thing is it gives you manual control of things only on one side. Alright, if you hit the red line, it will upshift. However, if I shift into 7th gear, right now I'm in 7th gear, okay, I'm driving the car at around 95 km per hour. I bang open the throttle, I mash the accelerator pedal, no effect. It doesn't care. It will not make a downshift. Now it will keep me in 7th only. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop the speed a bit, and we've dropped it dramatically. It's still in 7th at 70 km per hour. It will not make a downshift. However, if you reach the red line, it will make an upshift. Well, it's kind of weird that one side it's intervening, on the other side it's not. Either you do it both ways or you don't do either ways. But even with AMTs now having full manual control of things, this should have been offered as well, because I just want to keep the car at red line. Look at this. It's 1.4k RPM, 1400 RPM at 69 km per hour. The car is so silent and so smooth, you can barely hear a thing. That's the level of refinement we are talking about. From a 3-cylinder engine, that's what Hyundai does best. Refinement, smoothness, comfort, features, value for money. And I can keep going on and on, but this vlog is over, so I have no right to talk anymore. Next आप देख रहे हैं दोस्तों, मैं चला रहा हूँ Hyundai की Verna. ये गाड़ी ऐसी है जिसमें 4 पहिए आते हैं, और उन पहियों के अंदर और 4 चक्के होते हैं। जी हाँ,
4 पहिए के अंदर चक्के
वो व्हील्स होते हैं, पहिए वो होते हैं टायर।